So in this session, we'll discuss how to write or how to complete and balance the equation. Before completing or balancing the equation, just remember that staircase to identify the metals and non-metals. The elements which you see on the right hand side, including hydrogen, these are non-metals. The elements which you see on the left hand side, these are metals. And how they exist in nature: for non-metals exist as a molecule, and for metals they exist as an atom. So if I say write a symbol for chlorine gas. So if I say write a symbol for chlorine gas, first thing what you will do, you will check the position of the chlorine. As you can see, chlorine is on the right hand side. The symbol of the chlorine is Cl, but because chlorine is a non-metal, and how non-metal exists as a molecule. So if I say write the symbol for chlorine molecule or chlorine gas, so how you will write? You will write Cl2, because non-metals exist as a group of atom, or they exist in the nature as a molecule. But if it was a metal, like if I say write symbol for sodium metal. So for sodium metal, as we know, or we say write symbol for sodium. So what will be the symbol for sodium? It will be Na. We will not write Na2. Why we don't write Na2 or 3? Because metal does not exist as a molecule. Metal exists as an atom. Where non-metal does not exist as an atom, they exist as a molecule group of atoms together. Except group 8. Group 8 are unreactive. Exception is there. So we will not discuss anything related to group 8 here. We'll only discuss the non-metals belongs to group 4, 5, 6 and 7. So if there is a non-metal, it will exist as a molecule. If it is a metal, it will exist as an atom. So another example, if I say write the symbol for oxygen. Why we are writing 2? Because two atoms join together to form a molecule. So if I say write the symbol for oxygen, so when you check the periodic table, because in a periodic table all the symbols are given for atoms, but when we say oxygen, oxygen is a non-metal, so oxygen does not exist as an atom. In nature, how it exists? Oxygen exists as a molecule, so we'll write O2. Same way, if I say write the symbol for nitrogen, so the whole periodic table is given for atoms, but oxygen is a non-metal, and all the non-metal exists as a molecule. So that's why chlorine is not Cl, it is Cl2. Oxygen is not O, it is O2. Same way nitrogen, symbol for nitrogen is N, but nitrogen does not exist as an atom. So how the nitrogen exists? Nitrogen exists as a molecule, like two atoms of the nitrogen joined together. So whenever we talk about the non-metal, all these non-metal exist as a molecule. But in the periodic table, the symbol of oxygen is not written O2, it is written O. because the periodic table is for atoms only. So in the periodic table, they give you all the atoms. But in reality, all the element does not exist as an atom. The elements on the right hand side of the periodic table, which are the non-metal, they exist as a molecule. And elements on the left hand side of the periodic table exist as an atom. So whenever we say what is the symbol of nitrogen, it is N2. Oxygen is O2. Fluorine is F2. Chlorine is Cl2. So they all exist as a molecule. Is it clear? Because that is very important to complete the equation. So now we'll discuss how to write a chemical equation. So how to write a chemical equation? First one, the first case, when two elements are reacting with each other. So if two elements are reacting with each other and we have to write a chemical equation, example, if I say calcium plus oxygen. So calcium is there reacting with oxygen. What will be the product when calcium react with oxygen? Calcium plus oxygen. It's not carbon, it is calcium. And it's a word equation. I'm just asking the name of the compound. Calcium reacting with oxygen. So what will be the name of the compound form? That will be calcium oxide. So calcium react with oxygen. This result in a formation of calcium oxide. That's a word equation. In word equation, we write the name. But now if we want to write the symbolic equation, we write the symbol. First, calcium. What is the symbol for calcium? So when you check the symbol for calcium, that is Ca. And when you check the symbol for oxygen, because oxygen is a non-metal, so it will not be O. You will not write O. What you will write, because it's a non-metal. So how the non-metal exists? Non-metal exists as a molecule. So calcium plus oxygen. So oxygen, we don't write O. We will write O2 because it is a non-metal and non-metal exists as a molecule. So calcium plus oxygen gives calcium oxide. Then how to write a formula of a compound, that we already discussed. The formula, how to write a formula of calcium oxide. So to write a chemical formula, you have to use a periodic table again. The valencies. So group 1 valency is +1, group 2 is +2, group 3 valency is -3, group 4 is -4, group 5 is -5, group 6 is group 5 is -3, group 6 is -2, group 7 -1, and group 8 is 0. So we want to write a formula of calcium oxide, as we already discussed how to write a chemical formula. So calcium belongs to group 2, so its valency is +2. Oxygen belongs to group 6, so its valency is -2. So first we write their valencies and then we simplify. we take a simplest ratio. So what is the simplest ratio? Because both valencies are 2 and 2, so we can say simplest ratio is 1 is to 1. And then we cross multiply the valency. So when we cross multiply the valency after simplifying, the formula of calcium oxide will be CaO. So the formula here is for a calcium oxide is CaO, not CaO2. Like if you write CaO2, that it means you made a mistake. You have to write a correct formula according to their valencies. When if it is an element form, Abdullah, if it is alone and as an element form, then you will write O2. But when it form a compound, when it form the compound, you will use the valency. Like here for calcium oxide, we will not write O2 because it's a non-metal. No, that is a rule which is valid for elements. When we are talking about the element, if element is a metal, we'll write as an atom. If element is a non-metal, we'll write them as a molecule. But this is a compound and we already discussed how to write the formula of compound. So to write the formula of compound, we will always use the valency. We don't bother about metal or non-metal. Is it clear till now how to complete a first part? Then the second part is balancing. So for balancing, the rule for balancing, you will start with oxygen, followed by hydrogen, and then any other element. That's a rule which we follow for balancing. And for balancing, the only where you can put a number is before the substance. You can only put the number before the substance for balancing. You cannot put right at the bottom as a subscript, only before that. So for balancing, we start with oxygen. How many total oxygen are there on the left hand side? Total number of oxygen on the left hand side. 2. And how many oxygen are there on the right hand side? 1. So how I can balance the oxygen number? Because left hand side I have 2 oxygen, on the right hand side I have 1 oxygen. We start balancing with oxygen followed by hydrogen and then any other element. So on the right hand side we have 2 oxygen. So we need 2 oxygen on the on the right hand side we have only 1 oxygen. So we need 2 oxygen. So I will put this number 2. When you count the oxygen, as you can see, before I place this number, the total number of oxygen on the left hand side, it is written O2. So how many oxygen are there on the left hand side? 2. When we check the number of oxygen on the right hand side, there is only O. So number of oxygen on the right hand side is 1. For balancing, we can write the number before the substance. We cannot write as a subscript. So here on the left hand side, we have 2 oxygen. On the right hand side, we need 2 oxygen as well. So what we do, if I put 2 here, if I write 2 here, so this 2 is multiplied with calcium. This is multiplied with oxygen. So what it make? It make total number of oxygen 2. So oxygen is balanced. Now when we check calcium, on the left hand side we have 1 calcium. On the right hand side we have 2 calcium. So what I will do, I need 2 calcium on the left hand side. So if I put 2 here, that makes 2 calcium on the left hand side and 2 calcium on the right hand side. So this equation is balanced in terms of calcium, in terms of oxygen on the left as well as on the right hand side. Is it clear, this example, the first example? First to write the equation and then to balance the equation. So symbolic equation, you must write the correct formulas as well as the correct number. Is it clear, this example? we have a word equation in which it is written that calcium is reacting with oxygen to form calcium oxide. When a substance is element and it is a metal, so we write the symbol as atom, so calcium will be Ca. If element is a non-metal, how it exists? It exists as a molecule. So for oxygen, we will write O2. And then it form a calcium oxide. How to write the formula of a compound? As we discussed earlier, that calcium belongs to group 2. So it has a valency +2. Oxygen belongs to group 6. It has a valency -2. So when we simplify the valency and cross multiply, the formula of the calcium oxide will be CaO. So this is the formula of calcium oxide CaO. So first we completed the equation. Then we have to balance the equation. For balancing the equation, we start with oxygen, followed by hydrogen, and then any other element. So when we try to balance the equation, we can only write the number before the substance for balancing. So numbers we can put here, the blanks which I made. So oxygen, there are two oxygen on the left hand side, as you can see O2, and there is only one oxygen on the right hand side. So which number I should write here to make two oxygen? So if I write 2 here, so this 2 makes 2 calcium as well as 2 oxygen. So oxygen is actually now 2, because 2 multiplied by 1, that's make 2. So oxygen is balanced. What about calcium? Now when you put 2, calcium is 2 on the right hand side and there's only 1 calcium on the left hand side. So I want to balance calcium. Right hand side 2, so left hand side I should write 2. So 2 multiplied by 1, that's make 2 calcium on the left hand side as well. Which part, Abdullah, you have a doubt? The balancing? Abdullah, I want you to use your mic.
Yes, sir.
Look, how many oxygen atoms are there on the left hand side after completing our equation? Total number of
2.
oxygen, 2. How many oxygen do you see on the right hand side?
1.
1. So what we want, balancing means we want to make the same number. How I can make the same number? Like on the left hand side I have 2. I should have, on the right hand side I should have 2. So if I put this number 2 here, so
So
this
we are
2,
changing a chemical formula.
we are not changing a chemical formula. Chemical formula remains same, but what happened now, we have two molecules of calcium oxide. So that's why when we write the number before the compound, we are not changing a chemical formula. But if you write the number like this to balance, it means you are changing the chemical formula. So you don't have to change the chemical formula, but you can change the number of the molecules. So when we write this 2 here, we are changing the number of molecules of calcium oxide, like we have 2 molecules of calcium oxide. And when we put 2 here, so it means we have 2 molecules of calcium oxide, 1 molecule of calcium oxide having 1 oxygen. So 2 molecules of calcium oxide will have 2 oxygen. Is it clear, this part?
Yes, sir.
Then about the calcium, because we have now 2 molecules of calcium oxide, so how many calcium are there on the right hand side? 2. So how many calcium should be there on the left hand side? It should be 2, but we have 1 here. So if I put 2, it means now I have 2 calcium atoms. So when 2 calcium atoms react with 1 molecule of oxygen, it will give 2 molecules of calcium oxide.
So why would we put 2?
Why we put 2 here? As you can see, on the when we try to balance the oxygen, we put 2. So when we try to balance oxygen, we put 2 here. So that make 2 calcium and 2 oxygen. So when it make 2 oxygen, oxygen is balanced. But what about the calcium? Calcium on the right hand side
Calcium
is
is also
2.
balanced. There is
This 2, when we write this 2, CaO, it means we have 2 calcium and we have 2 oxygen. So on the right hand side, we have 2 oxygen and 2 calcium. On the left hand side, we have 2 oxygen, but we have only 1 calcium. So we want to make 2 calcium. How we can make 2 calcium? So if I will put 2, so that make total 2 calcium on the left hand side. So this equation is balanced in terms of calcium, in terms of oxygen. So in exam, the important thing is the symbolic equation, which is you will improve only by writing the equation. Different types of equations are there, and this is the first type of equation when 2 elements are reacting with each other. Is it clear, Abdullah? I'll give another example. So if you have any doubt, it will clear with this as well. Another equation, we are doing the same part when elements are reacting. Example, sodium is reacting with chlorine to give, when sodium react with chlorine, what will be the product? In terms of word equation, sodium plus chlorine, the product will be sodium chloride. So sodium is reacting with chlorine, the product is sodium chloride. Now, this is a word equation. Word equations are easy to complete. The important thing is symbolic equation. Whenever, keep in mind, if element is a metal, you will write as an atom. If element is a non-metal, you will write as a molecule. And if compound is there, you will use the valency to write the formula. Okay, sodium plus chlorine gives sodium chloride. So when we check the periodic table, sodium and chlorine. So sodium will be atom or molecule. So sodium, because it's a metal, in element state it will exist as an atom. But chlorine, it's a non-metal, so it will be a molecule. So when we are completing the equation, for sodium, we will write Na, but for chlorine, we will not write Cl, we will write Cl2. Then it forms sodium chloride. Sodium chloride is a compound. Look, don't think that sodium is a metal, you will write Na, and chlorine is a non-metal, you will write Cl2. That's wrong, because this is not the way to write a formula of a compound. For a compound, we use the valencies. For a compound, we use the valencies. That's right. The formula for sodium chloride will be NaCl. And how it will be NaCl? When you check, sodium belongs to group 1, so valency is +1. Chlorine belongs to group 7, so valency is -1. So sodium is +1, chlorine is -1. So valencies are already simplified. We cross multiplied, so it will be NaCl. So the formula of sodium chloride, it will be NaCl. So first thing what we did, we completed the equation, because there are 2 steps. Number 1 is complete the equation. Number 2 is balancing the equation. How to write a formula of a compound, that we already discussed. That sodium, the element, it belongs to group, sodium belongs to group 1, so its valency is +1. chlorine belongs to group 7. Its valency is -1. So we cross multiply these numbers. So with sodium, it will come out as 1, and chlorine also it will come out as 1. And these number we don't write in the formula. So we write the formula of sodium chloride as NaCl. Abdullah, how NaCl? Because sodium chloride is a compound. So how to write the formula of the compound? If you recall the idea, don't bother about how many chlorine are there. The first step is the completing the equation. So how to complete the equation? If element is a metal, it will be an atom. If element is a non-metal, it will be a molecule. And if a compound is there, we will use the valency to write the formula of the compound. Don't bother about the balancing part first. First part is completing the equation. So in the first part, we don't care about how many atoms are there. We just write the formula. That's our first part. So sodium, because it's a metal, exists as an atom. Chlorine, it's a non-metal, exists as a molecule. And for compound, we use a valency and we write their formula. After writing the formula, next part is the balancing. Now you should bother about the balancing. So the rule is we start with oxygen followed by hydrogen and then we check other element. But there is no oxygen here, there is no hydrogen. So only sodium and chlorine are there. So you can start balancing with the one which is higher number, like example chlorine. So it can be any order. On the left hand side, how many chlorine are there? The total number of chlorine. 2. On the right hand side, how many chlorine are there? 1. So for balancing, we can only write the number before the substance. We can only write the number in these blanks. So I need, on the left hand side, I have 2. On the right hand side, I need 2 chlorine. So what number I should write? So I should write 2 here, because when I write 2, it makes 2 sodium and 2 chlorine. So basically chlorine is balanced. Is it clear? The first part, that chlorine is balanced. Then we have to check for sodium. When we put 2, now it makes 2 sodium as well. So we have 2 sodium. On the left hand side, we have only 1 sodium. So what number I should write here to make 2 sodium? So we'll write 2 here. That makes sodium also balanced. So sodium is 2, chlorine is 2, and the equation is balanced and it is complete. So first thing, you will complete the equation by using the correct symbol, and then second thing is balancing the equation. Is it clear to everyone? So I did not write any number here. So if it's not necessary that you have to write number everywhere, even we don't have to write any number in this part. So that's why I did not write any number with chlorine. So it's not necessary that you have to fill all the blanks. It means if we did not write any number here, we have 1. Another example. aluminium plus oxygen gives aluminium oxide. The first part what we are doing is the reaction between the elements. So aluminium plus oxygen is giving aluminium oxide. Aluminium is a metal. Oxygen is a non-metal. And the aluminium oxide is a compound. Aluminium, because it's a metal, so how it will exist? It will exist as an atom. Oxygen is a non-metal element, so it will exist as a molecule. And what about aluminium oxide? How to write the formula for aluminium oxide? So you have to check the periodic table for this. Yeah, that's right. Correct formula for aluminium oxide. Because aluminium belongs to group 3, so it is +3, and oxygen belongs to group 6, so it is -2. So aluminium is +3, oxygen is -2. We cross multiply their valencies. The formula will be Al2O3. So the formula for aluminium oxide, so whenever we have a non-metal, all these non-metal element, how they exist in nature, they exist as a molecule. So oxygen is O2, nitrogen is N2. And what about aluminium oxide? For aluminium oxide, aluminium having a valency of +3 and oxygen is having a valency of -2. So when we cross multiply the valency, this 2 will come with aluminium and 3 will come with oxygen. This is how we write a chemical formula of the compound. So it will be Al2O3. So the formula of the compound will be Al2O3. Is it clear till now? So first we complete the equation. Now, then we have to, the first part is done, we completed the equation. The second part is balancing the equation. So to balance, how many oxygen you see on the left hand side? So there are 2 oxygen on the left hand side. And how many oxygen are there on the right hand side? 3. Okay. Now how to make them balance, how to make them same? Because on the right hand side I have 3 oxygen, on the left hand side I have 2 oxygen. So where we have a smaller number, that side we try to balance. So on the right hand side 3, on the left hand side 2. So if I put 2 here, how many oxygen it will make? So that will make 4 oxygen, but still it is not balanced. Because now on the left hand side you have 4 oxygen, on the right hand side you have 3 oxygen. So we always put the number where the side is, where we have less number of atoms. So now on the right hand side we have 3 oxygen. So if I put 2 here, how many oxygen it will make? So that makes 6 oxygen. So on the right hand side we have 6 oxygen, but on the left hand side I have 4 oxygen. So what number I should write here to make 6 oxygen? So if I write 3 here, 3 multiplied by 2, what it will make? It will make 6 oxygen. Is it clear that we balance oxygen? So we change the number, and that part you will, in exam, this part you will do with pencil because your final answer is important. So after balancing the whole equation, you will write with pen. But before that, use a pencil to complete this part. So oxygen is balanced. What about aluminium? How many aluminium on the right hand side? On the right hand side, this side, the product side. This 2 multiply, this 2 is multiplied. So 2 multiplied by 2, that's make 4. So what number I should write here to make 4 aluminium, because we have only 1. So what number I should write to make 4 aluminium? So directly I should write 4. So that make 4 aluminium. So we have the balance equation for a reaction between aluminium and oxygen, that 4 aluminium react with 3 oxygen molecule to give 2 molecules of aluminium oxide. Is it clear? The idea of balancing the equation for the 2 elements when they react with each other. So first part is complete the equation. Don't bother about the numbers when you're completing. And the second part is a balancing, in which you will make the numbers as well as a number same as well. Saim, Yusra, Heather, Bashara, any doubt in this? So we started this topic. This is a very important topic, and that's a base of the chemistry, that how to write and balance the equation, or how to complete and balance equation. So we did our first part. There are many parts related to this balancing. So we started with the first part, in which 2 elements are reacting with each other. So when 2 elements react with each other, if element is a metal, you will write as an atom. Element is a non-metal, you will write as a molecule. And the compound which is formed, you will complete the formula of the compound by using their valencies. So next week we'll do more questions related, or more examples related to this balancing part. And tomorrow I'll discuss the weekly homework.